Hello and welcome back to the latest episode of the Lance Burkitt Encounter. What we're on now, episode 3,026,000,026, something like that. 23 maybe. Anyway, welcome back. Today I'm going to talk all about a recent trip I had to Malta with my lovely wife Kirsty. We went there for a few days, a couple of weeks back. Wish I was still there. Amazing country. Not just from a photography standpoint, but from a human standpoint. What a lovely, calm, relaxing, quiet, clean, happy place. Absolutely beautiful place to visit. So if you've not had the chance to go to Malta, I would say get your ass in gear and get yourself over there. So what I wanted to talk about today from a photography standpoint is my experience over there, but also thinking about it since I came back, my expectations as a street photographer, as a landscape photographer, as a photographer of people, things and places. And I'm going to talk you through some edits and some selection processes, but also I'm just going to talk about the wider issues and things you go through as a photographer when you're doing all this stuff, planning, law, morals, all those other things that come into it. And obviously, if you've any common sense as a photographer, you consider those things always, but I think sometimes more than others, depending on what you're doing, those things might just come to prevalence a little bit more than they do for other people. For example, if you're working in a studio and that's all you're doing, then you don't really need to think about the laws of the land and the legalities of what you're doing, places you're going, people you're photographing. But if you are, particularly going to a foreign country, you look at their moral codes, their laws, just to keep yourself safe, but also not to piss people off, because when you're photographing people in public, the last thing you want to do is be pissing people off. Well, they might make some good photos at some point, but generally speaking, you want people to be happy that you're there and you've got your camera, and you don't want them to be thinking, what's this tosser doing? Wish he'd leave me alone. So my philosophy is kind of get your house in order before you go, and then it solves a lot of issues when you get there. And Malta doesn't have any kind of like ridiculous you can't shoot here laws, or that photograph belongs to the state, or any of that other ridiculous stuff you often come across depending on where you're going. And in terms of, people, I found them to be very relaxed, very, they're just going about their lives, happy-go-lucky. They weren't so different to us in terms of how they dressed, how they hung out, what they did, cars they drove. Interesting, actually, that it's a former British colony, isn't it? And it's still quite obvious because the roads are dog shit. I did wonder while I was there, and I said to Kirsty a few times, I wonder how this such a beautiful place has allowed such shit roads to be developed. The roads are terrible. They're the worst roads I've driven on. I lived in Ireland in the 90s, and the roads there were bad, but the roads now are amazing. But Malta takes the cake on that one. It was absolutely horrific. The not just potholes, but holes. Like, you can put the car in a hole. No drainage. So the first day we were there, it rained, and we're in the hire car, this little poxy hire car, and it was up to the sills on the doors in rain, and it was just a horrendous driving experience. Luckily, I don't scare easy, and I actually enjoy driving, but it was a strange British feeling to the roads, and that you can see that in the pictures when we go through it. You can see that it's, the beautifuls are building that lovely sandstony colour, most of them. Lots of balconies, lots of plants, and lots of, just beautiful stuff, maligned by British style roads, curbs, signs. So that was a strange kind of experience, but a wholly fun one. And I found myself, the photography approach is usually a bit of street photography. If I see something indoors, I might photograph it if I feel it's morally okay to do it. But what I've not experienced much of currently or recently is doing things like public parks, beaches, things where there's kids, things where there's people relaxing. And I always think, when I see things like this, I always think about Martin Parr, which reminds me, Martin Parr's got a film out, hasn't he? I Am Martin Parr. I'll have to see that at some point, so I haven't yet. I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with Martin, because some of the stuff I think is great. It's really good. But technically it's crap. But he's just really good at capturing the moment, which I spoke about on a previous episode. Trying too hard to be technically good, or being technically good is the death of the moment, and Martin Parr definitely does not suffer from that. So I had that in my head a little bit as I was walking around public places and photographing beaches and streets and things like that while I was out there. But at the same time, I find it difficult to lose that perfectionist photographer thing that I've got stuck in my head that I don't seem to be able to get rid of. So I probably do still miss some moments, and I drive Kirsty crazy, particularly if she's in the shot. Just fucking get on with it is normally a turn of phrase. So it was a quite different experience for me. I mean, obviously, you follow the channel for a bit. I do a lot of street photography, and by a lot, I mean I don't go out every day and photograph stuff in the streets. But whenever I go anywhere, whether me and Kirsty go anywhere, take my camera, and I do a lot of street photography. Mostly shooting from the hip, because you all know I'm chicken shit and I don't like going up to people and getting in the face. Although, I did say in the New Year episode I was going to try and be a bit more brave and get in people's face a little bit, and I have done some of that on this visit. But generally speaking, I'm using my style. I'm not going anywhere out of my style, but I was thinking a lot as I was shooting. What would Martin Parr do here? What would William Klein do here? And most of the time I reverted back to me, but I did try to open my expectations out a little bit and think about why I was trying to create what I did and what I was trying to achieve from it as I was doing it, and not just seeing things and shooting. So you may see some influences in there, you may not, I'm not that sure. I've looked through the pictures a handful of times, I've edited a few hundred, probably more than a few hundred actually. My hit rate's normally like 1 in 10, as you know, but I think I've done something like 3 in 10 on this visit, maybe 4 in 10, just because I kind of enjoyed it. It was quite relaxed and the pictures are quite nice. So I'm going to go through my pictures now, and I'll pick out some ones that I edited, and I'll talk through my edit process, and I'll do all that for you. But also, I got to visit some places which I kind of have an affinity for. I mean, I'm a fan of Game of Thrones. It's a love or a hate thing, isn't it? But I'm also a fan of film. I've a bit of an experience in making videos and film. So I like to see how and where films came together. So we visited some Game of Thrones locations, some beautiful stuff out there. Just in Series 1 was filmed in Malta, and some lovely locations, external to go and see. Some of them were closed, but you could still see them from afar. I'm a bit dry today, you'll have to excuse me. But we got to see close up some of them, particularly the Azure window, which is now fallen down, but I'll talk you through that when we get to it. Just stunning. You can see why they were selected. And then, some of the history of Malta. I wouldn't say I'm into archaeology. Let me rephrase that. I'm into history. I'm into finding out our real history, as you will have guessed by some of the episodes, stolen history, photography, wider stolen history. I'm a fan of Graham Hancock on his Ancient Apocalypse series on Netflix. I was into Graham long before that, but series 1 of that, 3rd or 4th episode, he goes to Malta and looks at Ġgantija. So I got to go and see that, and that was quite wondrous. I mean, frustrating because I couldn't take the pictures I wanted to take because there's people around, scaffolding. I just wanted to be left alone and be there all day, but couldn't do that obviously as a tourist. But did get some nice shots of it. And then found out subsequently there was loads more of those kind of sites, those megalithic sites we could have gone to see, which, damn it. But we had such a good time, we've already said we're going to go back next year, the year after, for a week. And so I'll get to go and do that again. But you'll see as we go through the variation of shots, everything from street to hotel to balcony window to beach to megalithic structure to sky, car ferry. There's a lot of stuff in there. So I'll stop waffling so much and I'll just start picking through. And as normal, I sort my stuff out into folders so I can navigate my way through. And it was I had a few brain farts early on, as you can tell, a little bit of overexposure going on because I was tired. That's my excuse. But it was an interesting venue, and I'm always looking for people. What are people doing? What are people doing hanging out? What's happening where we are? What's interesting out the window? And I got the shot of these two ladies who were doing selfies like straight across from us, and as you can see, I overexposed it, which is unusual for me because 9 times out of 10 I'll underexpose a shot on purpose. But to be fair, I got auto ISO set, and I was just cherry picking shots because it was first thing in the morning. I was a bit hungover, truth be told. But what I did, because I shoot in RAW, I managed to rescue that shot. So I'll just find it out the pile here, and what we ended up with was a nice black and white like that. If I just full screen that, you can see that. And again, it looks a little like, I don't know, my wife described it as, she says it looks like a prison block, and I think it does, and it's a holiday block really. But I like the squares and the shapes and the shadows that are going on. So if we look at the raw file, we'll be able to see what I did in the edit and how I made that come together and what my process there was. It's quite normal. I've not done anything on there that I don't do on every shot. Start out looking at what's good, what's bad, what's indifferent. Always thinking, what was I thinking when I shot it? What was I looking at when I shot it? How did I see it? And although I've overexposed it, it was quite bright. It was quite lovely. But all I could see when I was looking at it was those shadows, those lovely shadows you can see under the concrete, I don't know what they call that, balcony stroke, roof of the balcony, plinth, whatever it is. You can see the shadows. So as always, I want to talk about shadows, extenuate shadows, hide things in shadows. As our friend Mr. Freud would say, what are you hiding? Why the shadows? And I don't know why, but I like shadow. I like contrast. I don't like underexposure and I don't like overexposure. I just like bloody contrast. I like black to be black, white to be white, and grey to be every shade. And as you know, cameras don't photograph things like that. They're shit. So there's always a mix to do. So in this mix, I've obviously reduced all of the highlights and whites off like that and done that. So that was the original shot, like so. That shot. So that's what I got. But because of the caliber of camera and raw capability these days, even then I know it's an easy fix. And the guy I learnt all this off, Guy Gowan, is an advocate of not doing what I'm doing now. But I do this because I think it works for me and what I want to do. But I understand why he says not to do it. But I'm going to overrule him on this occasion and go with my gut instinct. So the first thing I'm thinking is, right, I've overexposed it. So if you just underexpose it like that, which you can do, you can bring it back when we've got loads of stop of difference there. The trouble with that is we're losing detail in the window, in the people, and if you look really closely, we've still got white highlights on the lady, which I don't want, those blown highlights. We don't, last thing I want is blown highlights. So, oops, I've broken it. So, if we, I've lost the plot. If we go -310, which is what I had that at, you can still see we've got some slight highlights and the white frames of the door are a bit white. So I just normally pull the highlights back and you can see that if we pull the highlights up again and back again, the difference it makes. And then sometimes if you just pinch the whites as well, it just gives you a little bit more scope once you've made a JPEG to bring detail back so you're not stuck with it. So as you can see there, if we look at a before and after shot, come on, show me the after bloody thing. Before and after, reducing the exposure, highlights and whites gives us a better place to start. Now I know from shooting this building that it wasn't blue. I do know that. So the next thing I would do in this case is I would change the white balance using the colour picker to find something. I just switch that off to find something of the right colour type. Oh, I hate this. Once you've done that, I hate it. So you see it warm up a little bit then. Yeah. Don't know why. I've lost my colour picker. And now it's all gone to shit. Let's try that again. Off, 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 off. -310. Oops, like that. So you can see, looking for something white to match, and it might have to be the frame of the window that's white. Oh my god, what happened there? See, that's what happens when you don't know what you're doing, Lance. That didn't work, did it? So we'll go with the grey, because obviously if we've got grey, grey's a better place to start than green. So you can see just by taking the exposure down, reducing the highlights to give me a bit of scope to bring it back in the next part of the edit, getting the colour balance closer to what it was. Even though I shot it on cloudy, those who shoot kind of might realise that sometimes the camera is a fucking mile off, an absolute fucking mile off. Even if you colour balance it to death, get it in the mix, colours all over the shop. It's not what you want, is it? So we've done all that. That's all I'm going to do at this stage. No sharpening, no anything else, none of that stuff. No cropping, straightening. I'm just going to click on open it, and we're just going to open the shot up and take a look at it. So we're opening Photoshop now. You can see we're still quite dark, but because we've got some tools here we can use, usual tools, we can bring back as much as we want, and we can mask out any things we don't want. So if we look at the levels, which match our histogram, if we pop that up as well, you see the histogram there. Let me just get the layers down. Our levels are miles off, but if we pull up the highlights, like so, we can see what we've lost. Now you can see again, we put back those horrible highlights that we didn't want. So there's two things you can do. You can either use your noggin and bring them back like so, but again, you're losing the other things. Probably about there is about good. We're looking at the highlights on all the whites because we want the whites to be bright but not burnt out, so there's no detail. And we're just looking at that. Look, there you go. Now, a little bit annoying that is like that. The top piece there, can you see that? Well, it's like it looks like it's brighter because the paint's flaked off. I'm just going to click in the mask on the levels and use my paintbrush. I'm just going to reduce that by 30% just to see that. It's not quite as annoying now as it was. Not quite as annoying at all. So that's it. I'm done. I'm going to flatten that. Control Shift and E to flatten it back to a layer. Now the only thing I'm looking at now is do I like the framing stroke horizontal angle, and what I mean by that is it's clearly not straight, slightly distorted by the lens, but that would be straight if we straighten the layer using the brush. It's now straight, but again you'll notice this if you do a lot of straightening and stuff, that now the ladies look like they're off kilter. And if I just do a quick crop on that at the original ratio and make it so they're centered like that, ignore the bottom bit, it looks odd, doesn't it? So if we just get rid of those three transform bits, and I'm just going to look at whether it's worth transforming to get the thing feeling a bit more shaped, right, a bit more lined up. So I might just go with an eyeball it. That feels a little nicer there. So we've not quite cropped it as much as we did with the original lines drawn on, but at the same time that was annoying me how it was too slanted. So it's now better, but obviously we've lost a bit of the frame. There's a couple of ways you can fix this with the new what they call it, the new content aware bollocks. I tend to not like using it, but we'll do a demo on this. Let's say I've selected the bit I want to do, invert it so it content aware is the right thing. Content aware fill. We'll just leave it on auto, let it see what it does. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Come on. This is because I've got my computer turned down to slowish speed because it blows a wind like hell if I don't. And to the naked eye, this might look alright, might look acceptable once it's done. But if you look at it properly, we'll zoom in and have a look. My guess is it'll be a little bit, just deselect that so we can't see. It'll be a bit crap. Yeah, as you can see, look. Not too bad there. Yeah, look at that. Dogger. I know you can fine tune and do all that, but who wants to do that? Who wants to piss about doing that? What we'll do is we'll just crop it a little bit, and I'm going to turn off the snap function, because when you're trying to fine tune a crop, and it's snapping all over the place. It just gets on your fucking nerves. There, and what we're trying to do is not lose the frame too much, but try and keep those girls centered as much as we can. That's important. And I'd sooner lose a little bit of the top of the building than lose the center frame. So there we go. So from the original shot down to there, it's a much nicer shot, and it's just a simple shot. And then again, I did a black and white version because I always like to do black and white. Again, I don't do desaturating or any of that other shit. Simple process. Onto layers palette, pick a solid colour. Anything that's on the grayscale spectrum is good. Change the palette from normal to colour. Hey presto, you've hidden all of the colour, even though the colour's still there. We're going to put on channels, and we're going to look at the red channel. Yeah, that's alright. So we're just going to go Command or Control, click RGB, over here, using our curves, remembering to set curves up as pigment ink instead of light. And then we're just going to click on the output and give it 20%. And then we're going to Command J to copy that, Command I to invert that, and then we're going to drop the output back the other way, 5% like that. So we can now flip between them to get the black and white we want. Yeah, how's that going? Prefer that as well. Just pinch the highlights there. And again, if you're looking at the histogram, we've not destroyed any highlights, because if we had, that would have had to be way up here like that. And you can see, visually you can see, but the highlights are destroyed again then. So that's a process I did, and just on that initial shot, and I thought, it's a nice enough shot. You know, it's not a world beater, it's not a Pulitzer Prize kind of shot, but it's a nice place to start for the holiday. In fact, what we'll do is I'll flip through the edits, and then we can look at what I did and why. We'll stop at a few. So just seeing people walking around the street, you can see the colorscape. All these had to be colour space corrected a little bit, because the Canon's just shit at colour, I've discovered. And I've had, 5-6 different Canon cameras, and they're all the bloody same. So this pub pizzeria was nice. We'd walked past this a few times, went in it on the second or third night for a beer and a pizza, and discovered they were only selling cans of beer, which is always a bit... the toilet smelled a bit, so we didn't actually go in. But lovely building to photograph. This kind of stuff always makes me laugh. In the UK, you'd have 15 police officers chasing you for this, a fire engine, and an ambulance, wouldn't you, just in case. But these guys, nah. Let's just pick stuff up and drop it off the tip, get a few quid for it. Brilliant stuff. And again, I did a mono of that, which I liked. Again, random bike, just laying around. For me, this apartment block looks like a multi-storey car park, although it's not. It's just an apartment block. There's the back again. Lady hanging out of the window. Now, some people say, oh, she's minding her own business, you should leave her alone. Well, she saw me stood there taking a picture. She saw me stop, flip, and she never went, now then, you British bastard, get that deleted. She never did any of that. She just mooched her about a day, which most people do, to be fair. Somebody left their takeaway out, obviously. This is what I mean about, just go back one, about British signs. I mean, what do you do there? There's nothing. It's a roundabout. It looks like a giveaway sign to me, but don't do anything. Just go round and round and round and round and round around the roundabout. I thought that was quite funny. A couple of tourists trying to get Google Maps to tell them where to go. Wife looked like she's had enough with her husband at that point. This lady walking up the hill with a little dog. It's quite funny. The only thing that would have been better there is if the lead would have been tight, and it would have looked like it was actually the dog. He looks like he would have been pulling the lady up the hill. That would have been quite funny. Again, just seeing things mooching around. One thing that did strike me was all the houses, flats. Even when we were out in the sticks in Rabat and places like that, even the little roads which have got nothing on them really, where the houses are, they've still got a garage underneath. All the houses have a garage underneath. I just think that's brilliant. What a brilliant idea. Everybody's house, flat, whatever, has a garage underneath it. Although some of them, how you got a car out of it and turn it around was beyond me. Particularly is it if you had anything more than a smart car. But I just love the fact that everybody had got somewhere to park the car. Brilliant. A lovely old lady walking down the street, mind their own business. And that was shot from the hip, as you can tell, my usual style. I don't know whether she saw me or not, but it felt alright to do it. This guy definitely saw me. He was sat having a break. This guy having a cup of tea with his mask on, you know, a bit of a mask there. Why he's wearing a mask in the open air in the middle of nowhere, I don't know. I don't know whether he's working with harmful stuff, maybe. Do not, what's that sign say? Do not dispose of clothes. So maybe not, but hey ho. A boat parked in somebody's garage. Brilliant. What a brilliant idea. Just absolutely brilliant, isn't it? I'll just park my boat in here. But the stories behind them are great. I mean, there's a story there, isn't there? There's an absolute story there of what's going on in that family's garage. And just looking at, you know, being obviously doing his boat up, but the fact that he's doing it up in his garage underneath his house, I just love that. I absolutely love that. I hate windows. Did I ever tell you I hated windows? I absolutely hate windows. If you didn't hear me say that before, you've heard me say it today. I hate windows. Trying to make this thing show you pictures how you want to see them. And you can see we looked at, I mean, this is just beautiful scenery around a place called Sliema. Now, this is a problem I have with my bad back and my knees. I struggle to get down to like ground level and do this kind of stuff. So I'm trying to place the camera and I couldn't quite get it. I wanted to get a bit lower. It's not an excuse, it's a reason. And I'm sure some of you out there that have got health problems get frustrated in photography that you can't do what you want to do, how you want to do it, when you want to do it. So I feel your pain on that, because I get that quite a lot with my triple disc reduction in my back, and my knees are very cartilagey. I struggle to do that kind of work. So I envy those guys who've still got their health and can jump around like lunatics and hang off cliffs and stuff, because it's frustrating sometimes that you can't quite get what you want. But that's not a bad snapshot considering. Guy fishing, a little bit of wake there. This made me laugh because my missus always says, you always stop to photograph things that people have dropped and left. Bloody hell. Piece of shit. Yeah, my wife says, you always stop to photograph things that are just like left around, like, you know, gloves and shoes and handbag. And I'm like, yeah, but it's funny, isn't it? Beautiful street, apart from the British roads. Beautiful day, nice. Big pile of dog shit right in the path. So I had to stop and photograph it, of course. And again, just people mooching around the seafront in Sliema. Stop destroying Malta. I thought that were quite apt. Some strange formatted clouds, some like square-looking clouds in the distance there, which made me laugh a little bit. But Sliema Bay, Sliema Beach, Sliema Seafront was interesting. I mean, all the rock in Malta is interesting because it's that volcanic kind of, looks like it's half-baked kind of rock. People just hanging out. This was Friday morning. It's not the kind of thing you'll see in Rotherham High Street on a Friday morning, people hanging out like this. So it's nice to see. Again, struggling to get down as low as I would. Actually dropped the camera onto a rock there and just left it be and hit the button to see what I got. Beautiful, clear. There's always that going on though, isn't there? There's always the horrible cranes and the other shit in the background, kind of spoiling the party. But Sliema was beautiful. Nice Dalmatian dog whose owner let me come up and photograph it slightly after that, which was very nice of him. Did appreciate that. So there's the lady, did a colour version as well, I just happened to spot. Now this is me doing my, I was going to say Calvin Klein then, I meant William Klein kind of approach. Rather than shoot from the hip, I stopped, looked through, took a shot of her. She didn't look at me then, but she did look at me afterwards and smiled, so I kind of knew I was alright. But just getting that shot, just getting the camera to focus through the beams and get her face was quite nice. She's obviously reading. I should have asked her what the book was. There's the dog, look, happy chappy. Most of these are shooting from the hip. This one I quite like, the young guy and the old guy both out walking on the seafront. What made me laugh is me and my wife were in shorts and t-shirt, and even the young guy on the right's got a jumper on, and the guy So the guy on the left, and the guy on the right's got the hat, coat, scarf, and everything. I just think 16 degrees feels hot to us, but to that guy, it probably felt like middle of winter. Just made me laugh that. People sunbathing in 16 degrees heat, it's bizarre, isn't it? I mean, maybe they were tourists, maybe they weren't locals, maybe they could feel the heat like we could, but I just thought that were a nice shot of them all relaxing, but one of them still on the phone. Can't put it down. A couple having a love. It's just another shot of the same thing, different crops. Instagram crop, website crop. And just people walking up and down the front, and occasionally you get some interesting characters. Thought this lady dog was interesting. She had stopped to take that shot, so she was clearly happy for me to do it. You see the smile on her face. Most people are oblivious, but she was quite nice. This one, it's slightly out of focus because it was a hip shot, but I just thought it was quite nice, that guy in his own with his mates, but he's doing a selfie all by himself, of himself. Always quite nice to see that. Old couple, and again, you can see the rock formations, and you can see how it's all kind of going down. This was funny, the gym terrace. I thought that's a great idea, and when you look down, there's people actually working out there, and I really like that. I like the fact that there's a gym terrace and it's been used, because we do have them here in England. We have them on local parks and stuff, don't we? But I don't think I've ever seen anybody on a piece of apparatus in a park. Only thing we see in parks in England tend to be druggies, dropouts, and lunatics. We certainly don't see people doing gym work in the park. Little castle at the end of the prom, can't remember what that was. And again, just walking back down the other way and spotting interesting characters and taking street shots from the hip, like I like to do. He reminded me of Popeye, which is funny because the next day, or was it late that day? Next day, I think we went to Popeye Village, which was just insane. So you can see, I'm doing lots of street photography like I would normally do, capturing normal people, going about the day, people on the beach, just hanging out. That was a nice picture of. We call them the Blue Rinse Brigade at home. What they call them in Malta, I don't know, but older people who've been to the hairdressers have their hair done. Fucking hell, that what? Burnt my tongue. Just that was a nice shot. So you can see the kind of stuff I was doing, nothing too dissimilar to what I'd normally do. This was where one of the Game of Thrones locations we went to see was, if you follow the show, it's where Sean Bean gets beheaded, but we couldn't, that's it there. We couldn't get to it because the little island it's on was closed, so we had to photograph it like this. So I guess you get what you get, don't you? But it was still nice to have been there and seen it. I mean, beautiful bay. Sliema, and as you go around the coast there to get towards Valletta, just absolutely stunning. And I love what the buildings are made out of. They're a photographer's dream, to be fair. This made me laugh, people hanging out there, washing on the window. And I know people do that, they do it all over, don't they? They do it in cities and all that. I just thought it was really quaint and nice to see people hanging the smalls out of their flat window because they don't have a garden. Great stuff. Young girl sat pondering life. I thought that was an interesting shot. It's a slight crop on that. The actual shot's slightly wider, but I liked how she was kind of looking out and we could follow that row of that terrace of houses and buildings into the battery salute behind them, which is where a couple of times a day the guns go off to salute some shit. Forget what it is. Great though. Bottom end of Valletta, Hotel British. That kind of made me laugh a little bit. Again, there are hints of the colonialism all over the place. Beautiful streets though. People just hanging around waiting. This one here. I just saw this family. I think the mum was a bit of a pushy mum. Go and stand there and have your photograph took. Go and stand there while I do your picture. The young kid didn't seem too impressed that he had to do that, and I think the dad was getting a bit balled off having to wait for her. It's funny that it's normally me with my wife where that's happening. But again, it was nice to see, and I stopped and took the shot, and they didn't say, "Now then, you fat twat, what you doing?" They were just in their own moment, having a bit of family time, and I just happened to stumble across it and got lucky and got a couple of shots. And we'll look at the raw. Oh no, we won't look at the raw file of that. That was the wrong shot, Lance. What number was it? 318. Useless. I don't know how that happened. 18, I said 18, you prick. There we go. We'll look at the raw file, just so you can get a more realistic idea of how it looked originally. And again, as you know, generally speaking, I like to overexpose everything. That's a joke, by the way. I like to underexpose everything, but I think because I was having such a good time, I wasn't really paying attention to what the settings were. And I'm not a nodding donkey photographer. I'm not have I got a shot? I'm just taking shots and moving on. I think possibly I'd fucked up the ISO. I think it was on auto, and I think it was probably reading the dark spots. But again, because I'm a professional, I walked around with my professional photographer badge on, remember. I know when I saw it later, I thought, oh, you're useless. You can fix it. So, again, we're same process. Beautiful. And that's it. And I mean, when you're thinking about edit process, and I've gone through hundreds of pictures here, all of these, with the odd exception, were check the raw, bring the highlights and shadows back in where they were missing, into JPEG, do a levels, maybe a little bit of RGB curves just to get in, just so I can fine tune a little bit, save, little crop on some of them, bang, done. That's it. There's no big edits go on any of my stuff ever. Even if you on this visit that I fucked up with the exposure, luckily we have raw files. So again, you can see I'm just cruising around taking pictures of that bay. I mean, it's just stunning. It sitting having a coffee and watching people come past. This guy I thought was interesting, drinking his iced tea. There's a colour black and white of him. I thought there, I didn't think so much, but there I thought, fucking hell, it's Mr. Bean. What's Rowan Atkinson doing here? Got that look of him, hasn't he? Lady on the phone talking to a family out with a kid, probably a grandkid. This guy, I thought it was, what's his name, that toss piece off TV. What's his name? I shouldn't call him a toss piece really, because I don't know. Lawrence Fox, thought it was him at first. But I did the different approach. I stood and took a picture. I thought, well, if he's taking pictures, I can take pictures. But he never turned around. He just did that the whole time I was there. And I got bored of waiting for him to turn around so I could get a headshot of him. So I just took that. But again, no qualms, just take the shot. These guys, I saw them walking towards us. I took a couple of shots. And again, mother leading on. I kind of quite like that. Confident mum leading sister or sibling and kids down the streets of Valletta. Beautiful. People outside a shop. This guy went in the shop and he was like really close to me, so I just turned around and took a picture of him. Hence you can see his expression. This shot took a bit of fixing because the camera was set up to shoot outside, not inside. So I think, I'll be honest with you, and I'll show you the dog shit. I'll show you the dog shit. That's not it either, is it? Okay, no, I can't count today. B356. See, I'm dyslexic. In fact, let's not look at that. Let's look at the original JPEG. See what that looks like. Because that'll be probably closer to what it was. Yeah, it was a bit. As you can see, it's a bit dead, and I fixed it a little bit there. Just because I thought you were an interesting kid or an interesting guy, and he was eyeballing me, so I had to take the challenge, didn't I? But again, it's not a Pulitzer Prize winning shot. It's just a relatively honest shot of an experience. This guy confident at the top of the hill. I watched this little old guy walk down the hill. Again, not a dog shit this time, but some shoes. Always got to see stuff like that. And this is the old guy who'd walked down the hill. I took a couple of him stood there like that, but again, went for the William Klein approach. Just stood and photographed him. It's not a hip shot. And he did look over a few times, but that wasn't the shot. I just wanted to see what he was doing. He knocked on that door and he was waiting. And again, I did a black and white of that, which was quite interesting. Interesting people on a street in Valletta. You see the lovely bay in the distance. Ladies hairstylist. This was interesting. I didn't realise till I zoomed in later on that I thought that guy's got a big beard. It's not the same colour as his hair, but when you look at it closely, it's a dog on his knee, isn't it? It's a dog on his knee. So sometimes you've just got to be a bit observant after the fact, because I never noticed that when it was happening. I wouldn't do. No, it won't go next. So yeah, people having the dinner. So you can see there's no rocket science here. It's not like I'm claiming to be the world's most ultimate photographer. I just enjoy doing things in my style, always looking up, always see things looking up. That's a much more magnificent building from that view than it is from the view across the street, trust me. Little pause for thought. I thought he was a vicar at first, but he wasn't. Guy just doing his day job. But I didn't see this. Excuse me, I can't take full credit for this. When this first happened, Kirsty said, "Oh, we've seen magic carpet up there," and I just looked up, saw it, and I thought, "Oh," took a few shots of that. That was the best shot. Obviously, they're delivering windows or installing windows, but it looks like a flying carpet when you look at it. More washing on the line. This street, and we walked to it, it's called Eagle Street in Valletta, and I'd read that it's where some of the Game of Thrones was shot. I told Kirsty it was where Sean Bean's character meets a character called Gendry down some back lane, but it weren't. Turns out it's where one of the other characters, Arya, chases a pigeon or a cat or something. So, but it's still on the show. Little doggy on the ledge, watching the world go by with the shops below him. Quite an interesting shot. A couple of girls got lost trying to figure out where the hell they are. Always interesting that the girls can figure things out without having to ask others or get men involved. Quite like that. Lovely little streets, again in Valletta. Top of the hill in Valletta, a pretty English-looking ice cream van. It just needed to say Nobby's Nuts on it or something, didn't it? Brilliant. Again, a view from Valletta. People hanging around. Again, a couple of tourists, I haven't got a clue where they are. Now, this initially, I thought it was somebody taking a picture of something, but when you look at it, when you zoom it in, she just took her glasses off, and then I looked at it and I thought, oh, she's taking a picture of that bird that's above her. And if you look at it, you can see there's a bird in the sky, but she wasn't. She was just cleaning her glasses, I think. Or maybe the bird had shit in her eye. That's what it was. She was cleaning that. There's the bird. Look. So, interesting how you think something's something and it's not. Shows you I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, doesn't it? Some boats on the side. Love that art. I mean, it was just all a bit like that. A couple of cats there mooching around. Bus stop. I didn't know that Brian May was going to be in Malta or with her there, so it was nice to run into Brian May. Not sarcasm, by the way. Another pair of glasses. Look on the floor this time. So this is another Game of Thrones location we went to called Mdina, and lots of series one were filmed around here. So it's really strange to see. I can see that scene in my head where Catelyn Stark comes to King's Landing in it, and this is the entrance where she comes in. And it's like, oh my god, yeah. I love seeing film shit. I'm such a saddo. But when you walk around this place, Mdina, you can see that you can tell why they selected it for that show, because it feels like very well season 1 Game of Thrones. It's all a bit like that. And again, my exposures are a bit rough here because it's such bright sunlight and not always paying that much attention to what I was doing this day, to be honest with you. This is a square where Sean Bean's character gets stabbed in the leg, which is always interesting. They're a bit holiday shots, these. They're a bit touristy because it's difficult to get the shot you want here of the buildings when people are having dinner. So I didn't really spend too much time doing that. It was just nice to have visited. Again, interesting people everywhere, aren't they? I mean, I'd love to have a word with a hairstylist. This was the end of that first day. We went to this Game of Thrones place. It's called Saint somebody's Priory, Saint Francis, Saint Marcus, Saint somebody's Saint Dominic's Priory. And it's where they filmed the famous scene for Game of Thrones. It's where Cersei Lannister says that famous phrase, you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die. And that's where this was filmed. On this bit here, you can see that's where Sean Bean's kind of sat, and that's where they do it on there. So it was nice to go and see that. Again, it was difficult to photograph because the sun was kind of in the wrong spot, and it was all a bit not quite nice, and you couldn't get down to the path level. You had to kind of look down on it, so it's not great, but we went, we saw, we kicked its ass. And it was just a nice experience to see some of those locations from things that you like. I like that. I'm a bit of a saddo like that. Again, more pictures of people out the flat window or the hotel window, and it's great. It's just normal, isn't it? People sitting there sunbathing, getting a bit of morning air and a bit of morning sun. Although there's not much sun on him, poor guys. Is a floor too high, isn't he, for the sun? But I love the highlights and shadows on that. I love how they're just there naturally, aren't they? You look at that and you go, wow. I mean, I have a conversation quite often with students about what's more important in photography, light or shadow. And the truth is, they're both equally as valuable. The value of them both is the same. But imagine that picture without the shadows. Imagine if that picture was like, I don't know. So, back to that pub and pizza again. So this is Popeye Village, and again, who would have thought a film set or a prior film set could have been such a good thing to photograph? And I'll just mooch through these, but you'll see as I go along. I mean, this is like 40 years old, 40 years since they made the film, so they must have done a lot of upkeep, because when you're walking around it, it looks old, but it's clearly safe and creaky. I mean, look at that. What a location to have to film in for a couple of months. Although I know it's work, so it's not the same, but it's a photographer's dream, man. And just walking around here for a couple of hours. So there's a plane going over, isn't there? Just seeing this firsthand. Not A, for the nostalgia, because Robin Williams was in it, and I'm a Williams fan, and obviously he's not with us anymore. And, you know, to be somewhere where he'd made a film was quite nostalgic and good. We loved that, but we sat and had a cup of tea in the cafe. We had a laugh. Kirsty got attacked by one of the characters. You know, when you walk into the little shacks, there's characters from Popeye in there, and she got not attacked, but she got stuck with one, and I quickly turned around and ran out, which was always funny because that's what I do. But it's very good, and reading the history of the film, how they made it, it's one of the first films, if not the first, where they recorded the musical side of it, the live songs actually live on the take rather than doing them again in the studio afterwards, and reading about that was quite interesting. Always enthralled by that kind of stuff. But a beautiful place to visit, and it gave me opportunity to get some lovely photographs, even from a landscape point of view. Me with my usual something of the horizon in the shot, and it was just beautiful. Anchor Bay, they call this. I don't know whether it was called that before the film, but it's definitely called that now. And it was just beautiful. I mean, that was just one day. I mean, luckily we had good sunlight, and there were some interesting shadows in the skies, but that's just from a depth point of view, from a shadow. I was just talking about shadow previously. From that point of view, and everybody's expecting you to take photographs while you're there. It's like a photographer's dream. Nobody's going to bother you. Everybody's taking photographs, so you can photograph the fuck out of the place, and nobody's going to come at you and go, take a picture for. Because everybody's taking pictures of everybody. So, I'm a bit disappointed actually I didn't get more people shots, but I was just enthralled by the place. And yes, some of it's a bit postcardy, some of it is a bit, oh, I've been to Popeye Village. But I thought it was fucking great. I don't really care what you think. I mean, that alone, that was worth the entrance fee just for that shot of the pier. And again, you know, the cliffs are beautiful, the scene's beautiful, and these all convert to black and white nicely as well. Some of them better than others, but this is just looking out on the ferry port. So we got the ferry over to Gozo when we went to see probably my favourite place in the whole world, which was Ġgantija. Kirsty's not keen on boats, she gets a bit seasick, but luckily this was only a 10-minute spin across the sea, and it was really, really nice. I mean, you ride up, you get on the ferry, you don't even pay to get on the ferry. You pay coming back, so you literally just ride up, get on. You have to do like a little 3-point turn on the ferry, which is great. Took some photographs. You can see this photograph now of some little building on the little tiny island between the two main islands. Then you get off and you drive through some lovely, crazy, insane back streets, and before you know it, you're at your destination. And it's really unassuming, because as you walk up, as you park the car, because I don't know if you know this, but in Malta you can park bloody anywhere, nobody cares. There's a few yellow lines and tow points, but generally speaking you can park where you want, and it's brilliant. So we parked outside somebody's house and walked across this kind of shop front, and I thought, well, sure, Ġgantija's here, because it doesn't look like there could be anything here. And we go in, we pay our money, we walk down a few little things, and then suddenly, bang, it's there in front of you. This mainstream archaeologist says 5,000 or 6,000 years. My reckoning, it's probably older than 13 or 14,000 years. Watch Graham Hancock on Netflix, the Ancient Apocalypse series. Fascinating. And just being there, I mean, Kirsty's humouring me because she's not into any of this stuff, but it's our other, so she's come with me, she's great, she's not rushing me, she's take your time, babe, all that. So she's allowing me to soak it up, and it's strange because when you're there, you look at it and you can touch it and you can walk around and you can feel it, and it just feels like out of time. It feels like it's from another incarnation, if you like. It doesn't. The vibe I got was, this is from before we could understand what it is and what it should have been and what it could be. And that comes back to my stolen history thesis, which is not mine, but I've written about it quite extensively in books and academic paper, about how we can't perceive that something was here before that was as intelligent as... I know we've got all the Egypt stuff and all that kind of stuff, but I think people still think that people built the pyramids with whips and chains and big hammers a couple of thousand years ago. But I don't. I think the term reset is kind of overused now, because it's been pushed in the mainstream media to mean other things, but some kind of catastrophe 12, 13, 14,000 years ago, which wiped out what was, massively changed the shape of the earth and how it's configured in terms of continents and what's underwater, what's above water. All that changed. So we can't tell what was before in the main, only stuff that's left above ground, and there's not much of that if you look at what is proposed to have happened. So I think when you come to something like this, and when you stood there walking around it, looking at it up close, thinking about it in a bit more of a literal sense, and getting right up close. I mean, let's say, for example, we believe that it's 3,000 years old. How the fuck do they drill an hole like that? I'd struggle to drill that now with my DeVault. You know what I mean? Perfectly shaped holes, which were clearly there to hold something of strength. But we don't have to do it now. We don't know how they do it then. That's because it's so far back in time, and so much of that time is lost to catastrophe. It's difficult for people to comprehend. And as you know, most people default to what the mainstream says because they're scared to think that life's been a lie and things like what they think they are. But trust me, having been there and having seen it and having touched it, having placed my hand on it, this might be a bit fluffy and a bit fucking philosophical, but I felt like that place was out of our time, beyond our time. And it was just beautiful to see. And I got a couple of nice photographs of it, and these ones here I quite like. And I think the stones, when you look at the stones, look, particularly these rounder ones, look particularly like skulls a little bit, particularly more on the mono shot. They stand out a little bit more like skulls. And again, the light's nice for this, isn't it? It's just in the right space. There's a nice little bit of interesting cloud behind it, which allowed me to get the shot. That's a view from Ġgantija, another view. But again, trust me, you've got to go. You've got to go and feel it. Look at it, see it, feel it, experience it. Probably the best €15 I've ever spent. And from a photography standpoint, again, you're allowed to take photos, so you're not thinking, I shouldn't be doing this. I would have liked for everybody else to bugger off and for me to have a day there on my own. Because sometimes you can't get a shot because there's tourists there. And other things like, they built little walkways for you to go on so you don't damage it anymore, so you can't see some of that kind of stuff. Kind of is a bit annoying from a photography point of view. But generally speaking, if you'd have said to me a couple of years ago, Lance, you're going to go to Ġgantija and you'll get some nice pictures from it, I would have said, well, for a start, fuck off, because I ain't ever getting on a plane. And B, I would have never probably thought to go to Malta. And it was my wife's Kirsty idea. Again, just a bit of a coincidence that this happened to be there, and it was one of the places I'd thought about for a couple of years, but just an experience I'll never forget. And we're probably there for an hour and a half, and bought some stuff from the gift shop. Bought a couple of good books actually up here about Ġgantija. Well, nearly lost me tinfoil like that. And I just advocate anybody to go, even if you're not a photographer. Just go and experience it and see what you think. Go with an open mind. That's the wider shot. And I just think, I mean, monos are great because monos make you have to think about things. They take the colour away, which sometimes takes some of the evidence away, and then you have to go, oh, fucking hell, what's that? And that's what a black and white or a mono, whatever you want to call them, does. And again, for this shot, if you're looking at the surroundings, it's out of context now because it's got the modern world around it. But if you look at it there, when I've took some of that context away, it's a little bit more interesting. So it feels a little bit more megalithic, a little bit more out of our time. And that's kind of what I felt when I was there and I was looking at it. I know I'm in the 21st century. It's, whatever it were, middle of February 2025. I know that, but I didn't feel like that, particularly when I was close to it. So extremely lucky to have been and experienced that. And I would say, if you can go. This was a family that I think, I'm hoping that there were tourists who had been and seen it and were getting the bus back to wherever they were. Luckily for me and Kirsta, we had the bright spark idea. I don't have many, but I did have that one, to hire a car. And because we got to see so much more because we had a car. We weren't going to do, but we did. And I'm glad we did. And we got to see lots of stuff, so we weren't hanging around for public transport and wasting time. We kind of literally went from place to place quite quickly. And this was just a family sitting at the side of the road waiting for the bus, all completely ignoring each other. So all I could think was, here we are on an island in the middle of the Mediterranean, fucking thousands of miles from civilization, really. Behind them over that bush is Ġgantija. And let's say whether it was made 2,000 years ago, 5,000, 10 or 20,000 years ago, at some point Ġgantija was inhabited. And people had to talk to each other and communicate to each other and hang out with each other. And now we've progressed, we're more intelligent, we're more sophisticated, we've got more technology, but what do we do with each other? Like I said in last week's podcast, generally speaking, we fucking ignore each other. Look at this family on their holiday, all plugged into something other than each other. Fascinating. So from there we drove up the coast a little bit to the other side of Gozo and went to a place, the name of which escapes me. I'll stick it on the screen when I get back, but it's where something called Azure Window is. If you're a fan of Game of Thrones, again, I know I'm a bit boring with Game of Thrones today, but if you're a fan of that, it's where the wedding is, the Dothraki wedding, where Daenerys, the blonde one, gets married in the first series to Khal Drogo. And that's, what's her name, Emilia Clarke, and what's his name, Aquaman. So we drove up there and we parked right on the edge, and I'd researched a bit so I knew roughly where they shot it and what it looked like. Now the Azure Window, I'll put a picture on here and I'll copyright it to somebody else, what it looked like up until I think 2017 or so, when there was a big storm and it pulled it down. So the actual window, you can see the arch is not there anymore, but the rest of the landscape is stunning. Walking down to it, just came across a family having a picnic, and again, it's great, isn't it? You've got a family having a British style or an English style picnic in the middle of nowhere in Malta / Gozo, in a VW van and an old, I don't even know what that is. I don't even know what it is, but it's not a VW, is it? What is it? Is it a Fiat 500? In the middle of nowhere, having a picnic. Just fucking great, innit? I just love it. I love that shit. And to have come across that, a couple of motorcyclists going past, did you hear them? Oh, it's nearly time. It's nearly time. My bike behaves. And just to come across that, it's just brilliant. So I had to take the shot, obviously. And again, a little bit of foregrounding. They're nice and centred. If you're looking at rules of thirds, they're nice in the centre, nice and square. Just loved it. And again, it's not a Pulitzer Prize winning shot, but it's not unlike something Martin Parr would have took. He probably would have got in there though and took pictures of the sandwiches as well, which I never did, because I'm not that kind of photographer. This lady was a shoot from the hip, I can't deny it, but again, she saw me a couple of shots after and she was like, hello, quite polite. But I like that one because it looks quite, and it's full of energy. It's an energetic shot. It's a stop, point, shoot, move shot, which I quite like. And the sun's just creeping out past her, which again is nice. There were some kids playing on some rocks, which is always great. That's a beautiful view. The location I'll tell you on the screen, but that was just stunning. And you can see a couple of people, a couple of lovers down here, actually. I think what they actually were doing was scuba diving, because I took a picture of them later on, scuba diving. But this is the old Azure window now. This used to have an arch that came off the end of it here, which fell into the sea, which is a shame, because it was more beautiful than it is still, but it's beautiful. I mean, that, for me, that's what I was kind of hoping to get when I went there, and was not surprised to get that, but I'm really happy with that as well. You know, don't often do landscape shots and crop and portrait, but that just felt like it sucked me into that shot. It was like, oh, look at that, look. Just that sliver there, Lance, that's it. And that's where the Azure window would have been at one stage, but even that makes for an interesting shot. It's like the remnants, is it? Maybe it's because I know that that's what was there before. Maybe that's why I can kind of like feel it and understand it. But so yeah, beautiful shot. And again, the original shot was that, but I think that crop just pulls it in, doesn't it? That's nice. Don't get me wrong, that's nice, but that just grabs you a little bit more. So think about that when you're editing, when you're placing shots in frames. The colour's nice as well. I mean, the colour, look at that light shine on the sea there. Look at that. That's in the shot. That's not post. That's not anything I've done. That's just beautiful black and white, sucking you in, drawing you in. Took me a few minutes to do that talking to you. It probably took me 30 seconds to do it initially. So I'm not talking about going through all your pictures, your 1,000 pictures you took, and spending days and hours editing. I edited all these over a couple of days in the time I had. As you know, I'm always time short, always bloody short on time. But when I'm editing, when I've done a photo shoot, whether it's with a model, an actor, for a company, whatever, I like to shoot and edit. I like to give myself that time to edit. I try not to edit the same day, because sometimes you're still tired from the shoot. Like, this might sound daft, but the shoot's in your head. You've been out, you've done a shoot, whether it's landscapes, whether it's a holiday, whether it's a model, actor. You've done a shoot, your head's exhausted, you've done the shoot, and you're thinking, oh, just have a look. And more often than not, when I do that and I do have a look, I'll do some edits and then go back the next day and re-edit them anyway, because I've had a bit of space between the shoot and thinking about it and remembering it. Sometimes when it's still in your head, you tend to be a little bit, you overcook things a bit, 10-20%. And that might not sound like a lot, but it's a real lot when you want to be perceived as being professional. So it's rare that I shoot, edit on the same day. I might send a few to a client or to an actor or model if they're excited and they want one, but generally speaking, for myself, my own use, I'll re-edit them slightly. And the next day, you've got a bit of time and space for your head. You've got rid of your exhaustion from the shoot. You can see it with clear eyes. You're thinking about what you felt, and that sometimes helps in your edit process, because you're remembering how it made you feel. You're not still feeling it as you're editing it. And there's a difference there. And going back a couple of days later or the next day and going, oh, right, I've got a bit of space now. And you start looking at, you start working, you're in RAW, you're moving things a little bit, sometimes a lot, sometimes a bit, feeling how it felt, looking at it, using your histogram. The histogram is your saviour, not instinct, not anything other than the histogram, because everything else will lie to you, the histogram won't. Making sure you're seeing where your colours are, where your exposures are, highlights and shadows, where it's all going off. Making decisions and remembering how you felt, and you need a bit of space between doing it and going back to it to achieve that, I believe. And that's probably where some photographers make mistakes and why their pictures look a bit ropey, because they've got on, they've gone, pinged it out, and they've not had space to think about it. This was just a little ravine in the beach. It's really funny that. Oh my God, shall I tell you this? Yeah, I went to an open mic night. My stepson, Evan's got a band, and they went to do an open mic night to get a bit of experience. And there was a guy on there, folk singer from Rotherham, doing his own songs. And one of his songs was something about getting lost and trapped in a ravine, and then getting out. And it was like 5 minutes of that, and I was in hysterics. And I don't often laugh at people, particularly musicians, having been one myself, but this guy was one of those, you know the type I mean. And then he butchered an Art Garfunkel song at the end, so that made it even worse. But just singing that ravine, he fell in a ravine and had to get out. Just hilarious. Anyway, you probably had to be there. This shot again was in that little ravine, and I just thought, oh, that looks like Godzilla, that bit there. That's why I took that shot. Trying to get nice reflections. Didn't quite work. Some of it was alright. Again, kids playing in a puddle. People stopping and having a look with a tin of whatever it is. Tourists. Lady on the phone. I thought she was great. And the thing that I liked about this was it's, like people just don't give a what they look like. People just are themselves. That's her, isn't it? She's herself. Some people might say it looks like she got dressed in the dark. Most people say I look like I get dressed in the dark. And the truth is, I do normally. But that juxtaposition of her standing there in a kind of hippie 70s looking kit with a lovely shimmer on her trousers off the light, and then the odd couple walking past them who clearly are the type of people who have a joint Facebook page, Jim and Jane's Facebook page, because they got the same coat on, or they're colour coordinated. And I thought that was quite a juxtaposition to play with. It almost looks like there's only one person there, doesn't it? I mean, the jeans are slightly, one's darker than the other. His jeans have been washed a bit more than hers. I just thought that was a nice juxtaposition, but really strange. If I turned up dressed the same as Kirsty, I think after she'd slap me, she'd say, "Why are you wearing my clothes?" Anyway, so I thought that was funny. But yeah, there's Kirsty sat on her rock waiting for me. Always waiting for me. Sorry, love. But again, this is all in the same cove, whose name I will put on screen at the beginning. And it's just stunning. Sun started to go down. Now, I said at this point, shall we wait? There's the scuba diver I told you about. Or snorkel, or whatever they call them. I said, shall we wait and watch the sun go down? And Kirsty was like, she went, yes, which means, yeah. And then as I said that, the sky just went dull. And clouds came around. I thought, you've got to be joking me. We've come all this way. We've driven all this way. It's like, I don't know, probably about 20 miles, actually. All from total, including the ferry. And now we're not going to get to see sunset because of the bloody clouds. I just thought, it's just like being at home. So we didn't, actually. But I did get some nice shots as it was going down. You could see the golden sun kind of time. Beautiful. Really, just a beautiful, beautiful place. And I will go back and I will photograph it again, and I think next time I'd like to maybe spend a bit more time in each location. There you can see the sunset starting to come, but the clouds were kind of killing it. I was hoping for that postcard sunset, but didn't get it. Some nice shots still. Again, this will have been exposed brighter than that, but in my desire to bring things back to how I felt them, I'll always go for the shadow. And again, we're kind of almost full circle. That lady was having a cigarette for morning breakfast. She'd come out to get some fresh air and clearly was not getting any fresh air. But I just think, people, juxtapositions, people on holiday, hanging out there, hotel window, probably about 9 o'clock in the morning, something like that. People just doing what they do on holidays. And then this is a final Game of Thrones location. We went on the last day. It was like a middle of nowhere kind of place, and it's a blink and you miss it in the show, but we went and had a look at it anyway because we were close by, and it was nice. I mean, I've never seen cactuses before, I don't think, but Malta's full of cacti. They're just everywhere, and you can see them there. It was like the day of the cacti. Excuse me. And that's laid on the car park outside where we're just shooting. I saw the shot. That's from the hip shot, and you can tell because the focus picked up here and not here, but I still like the shot anyway. So we spent the last couple of hours of our visit on the beach, and this was like this is a strange one because you're photographing people on the beach, and there's kids and babies and people in swimsuits and all that. And I did think about this long, and I just thought, initially I thought, what would he do? And by he, I mean Martin Parr. And Martin Parr would have just been down there, wouldn't he, in the face. But I don't think I'm ever going to have that approach because I'm not Martin Parr and I'm not that kind of a person, stroke photographer. But I did do some close-ups and some pictures of people, and I got their permission through a nod of a head and a that's all right kind of way. But it was interesting, the concept of being on a public beach in a strange land with a camera, trying not to look like the bogeyman, and also doing the typical British thing, tying my trainers around my neck and that kind of stuff, so I didn't have to walk on the sand. I'm sure Kirsty's got a picture of me somewhere looking like that. So it was kind of like a strange end to the visit, but I enjoyed it and I liked it, and I got some nice pictures from there, and I'll show you some now. So yeah, I was a bit Martin Parrish, but not. And I just thought, they're playing what's it called, volleyball. Quite a nice shot. I missed the edge of that off. I didn't even notice that till later. So I was probably a bit nervous at that point. But beautiful beach, beautiful location. This was actually called, I was going to say Summer Bay then, but that's that Australian TV show, isn't it? With Alf in it. What's his name? Alf. Wreck off, Alf. It was called something Bay. It'll come to me. And a couple of bikers I don't know why she would be on the back of a bike in them shorts. Christ. But she was. He's slightly more sensible, although I'm not sure the trainers ever done much for him. But it was full of all kinds of people, all types of people of different ages, creeds, cultures, and it was just nice to see people on a beach doing beachy things, all slightly different. This guy, he's probably about 17 or 18 degrees here, but it was hot for us. He must have been sweating. He must have smelled a bit fruity. But I just thought that was an interesting shot with his Ferrari shorts on and his mobile phone and his Nike pillow and him just chilling on the beach, unable to switch off from the world because he's got the world in his hands. Young girl throwing sand into the sea. Again, that's nice. That was a slight crop and a slight twist because I didn't quite get that right. And then I put her right against the edge because it's looking like she's throwing it right out to sea, even though she wasn't quite. Some guys on their jet skis, when we actually watched them go out, they must have been going, I'm not kidding, 100 mile an hour. Now, I don't know what the speed limit is on a jet ski, but they were breaking it. Christ, they were nuts. Beautiful clear waters. Sometimes Cornwall in the UK gets a little like that, but not like that. It's just, young girl looking down at her feet. Parents were behind her. They saw me taking the picture. They were fine. I thought at first, when I first glanced at, I thought that was a big ice cream that she'd dropped, but it wasn't. But just an interesting kid, Mardy kid, and she's like, oh, it's time to go home yet. I need the Xbox. Now this shot, I lined up because I saw the plane coming over and I thought, right, we'll get that, we'll wait for it to get in the centre, we'll get some foreground in, me, like to have a foreground. Bang, got it in the centre. And it was only when I looked afterwards, and I looked at it, I realised there was a bird directly above that plane, and I couldn't have done that if I tried. And honestly, I think people might not believe that was a happen chance, but trust me, Governor, it was, and I'll prove it was because I'll show you the raw file if I ever get to it. Where was it? Is it back here? It was after that, wasn't it? There. I'll show you the raw file so you can see on the raw file that I've not lied. There ain't no lying going on here, boy. And I don't know how I did it because I didn't plan to do it, but it's actually right above it, isn't it? And the chances of that have got to be pretty slim. The chances of that have got to be absolutely 0 to none, haven't they? They've got to be. So I don't know. Just luck, happen chance, we like to call it, don't we? Where something just happens. But I definitely waited for the plane. Didn't even see the bird until I got home and was looking at the edit, and I thought, fucking hell, couldn't have done that if I'd tried. Great. And then just some snapshots of the beach and just the stuff, people swimming, very picture postcard, and it. Wish you were here. They look like how I feel when I'm forced to go on the beach with family when the kids were younger. Good on the beach. That's how I always used to feel. So that made me laugh. That guy there, I said to Kirsty afterwards, I've been watching him for a few minutes, and I swear what he was doing is he was watching the girls over his shoulder on his phone. He was doing a bit of that, I reckon. Can't prove that, but that's what it looked to me like he was doing. That's why I took the shot. Lady just laid down again, come to relax on the beach, but cannot switch off. Maybe she's on Kindle. Maybe she's reading Kindle. Maybe we'll give her that. This guy did see me. I was trying to take this shot, and he looked at me, and I thought, oh, fuck it, I'll just take the shot. So I did. And the only thing that annoys me about it is the cloud. I wish it was a blue sky behind it. And I could Photoshop it out and take all that out, but who wants to do that? I'm fucking doing that. People just beachy stuff in the background, but that kid and his dad looking at me quiet. But that was a, semi from the hip kind of shot until he saw me. Then I went, oh, took the shot. So thank you for that. This lady wrapped in a beach towel. People just beaching, doing what beachy things. Just a nice, happy shot. She's smiling. The kids were playing down the beach a little bit. It might have been these guys that she was laughing at, actually. Looks like probably granddad and son playing on the beach, digging holes. We've all done it, haven't we? I don't know whether this is kind of Martin Parr inspired. Maybe it is a little bit. Maybe I've let myself go a little bit and slipped into a bit of Parr territory there. I don't know. And again, people just what this guy here was. I don't know what he was doing, Bruce. He was playing this bit of sand here for ages and ages and ages. I think he was trying to make a tree stand up or make a stick stand up, but he was at it for ages and never got it. But just how I had to be sat rubbing my feet and cleaning myself up, I just thought, oh, that's a nice shot. And his mum and dad were here, sat watching me taking pictures. So I wasn't, doing anything I shouldn't do. They were sat watching me, and they were quite happy for that to happen. I just thought it looks like it's just a nice kid on the beach having a bit of fun with himself kind of shot. These guys have been out to swim, or they're either going out to swim or coming back. And again, I just liked how the light hit them. You can kind of see it coming through the towel onto the towel a little bit at the back and a little bit, and I just kind of like that. It's a bit like, if I'd tried to light that with some light, if I'd got a couple of strobes in it, wouldn't have never looked like that in a million years. So I'm just glad I didn't do that. I'm glad I just went for a straight kind of shot. And again, there's a couple of that ilk, and I think that's a nice wide shot as well, but I think I do prefer the crop. Leaves a bit, that you kind of can see where he's being, see where he's going. That you got to put a bit of imagination in there. Again, this shot here, people in full winter garb on the beach, got to be British tourists, aren't they? They've got to be. This local lady here, dressed for the occasion, British tourists. It's February, so they come dressed for February. This guy's going the other way, but again, if you centre him, it leaves a bit more to the imagination rather than you can see where he's being, see where he's going. I do like both versions, but I think the tight crop's better. This girl was setting her alarm clock. I think she was racing herself across the beach. But again, if we isolate her out of the background, it's a little bit more interesting, isn't it? I think so anyway. These guys all look to me, hey, what you doing? British holiday maker. And I'm like, sorry about the accent, that was terrible. Taking a picture, mate. And they looked at me a few times, and that was out of the 3 shots I got, that was the best one. I think because he's kind of squinting, he's no idea what's going on, he's looking at me as if say, I'll break your legs. Quite like that. Another girl off for a paddle, bit insane, but again I quite like how the light's hitting her. She's walking into the light there, it's quite nice. This little kid who was watching me from afar, and he ran dead into centre of start, and he did that on purpose. He knew exactly what he was doing. But again, it looks like a British family on holiday, doesn't it? This guy was writing, he was doodling, he was like, writing, I don't know, he was writing a script or writing poetry or writing something, and I saw him for a little while, and then I thought I'd take a picture of you. And he looked at me just as I was doing that. Then I thought, I'm glad he looked back down, because I didn't know he was writing poetry then. But what he was doing is ripping all the pages out of his book. So whatever he'd written, he wasn't happy with, and he was disposing of them. Just a beautiful last view. This is the cliffs on the way out. Again, I forgot the name of the cliffs. Something cliffs. The cliffs. But just beautiful scenery, looking out onto the Med, out towards, that would have been looking out towards North Africa. Just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful country. And I think that's about it from that visit. And there's nothing. There's some nice pictures in there. There's some pretty good pictures in there. But when you're working in those constraints, when you're going right, I ain't got a definitive plan. Don't know what the weather's going to be like. Don't know what the people are going to be like. It's a strange country. I don't know what's happening. If you're thinking about it too much, you'll never take a picture. But if you think about it enough to go, right, is it a high religious place? Are people going to be annoyed if I take a picture in the street? No, great. That's a good. Is it against their kind of morals to take pictures in the street? No, you're good to go. Are people offended? Is there a culture of don't take a picture? No. So I looked at all that and it was all pretty normal. And then when I got there, I found it was quite normal. In fact, it's probably whether because it's an holiday destination as well, I don't know, but people were very happy to have the picture taken, and it's probably the most I've seen that anywhere I've been. So that was good. So that means you can relax and take pictures a bit more. I always, when I come back from a holiday or from a destination, wish I'd taken more. And I took 1,000 pictures. I don't know what else I would have taken. Maybe it's wishful thinking. Maybe I wish there was more people there, more something. I don't know whether it is, but if I go through those 300 or so pictures I edited and fine tune them down, I could probably get 20 first class pictures that would look good in any magazine, website, publication, exhibition. So don't be afraid to go and have a go. And even though, like I said, on a couple of occasions there, I weren't paying much attention to my camera because I was enjoying my holiday and overexposed a few, which is really unusual for me. I normally purposely underexpose. But the fact that I got that usable amount of stuff anyway shows me that it's just having a go. Just take the pictures, go and turn up, take the pictures, have the mindset, do a bit of research, be aware of your surroundings, read the room, read the street, read the beach, think on your feet, be courteous, but at the same time, get the shot, push for the shot, push yourself for the shot. Don't sit there thinking, oh, I'm never going to get this shot, it's never going to happen. Go and push yourself for the shot, because if you do, you'll be glad you did. And there are a few in there that I'm glad I kind of did a slightly different approach to, because I wouldn't have them otherwise. I would just have another same batch of stuff I always get. So that was it for this episode, really. A run through my Malta visit, my approach to photographing people's places, all those kind of things. Doing them from a working photographer standpoint, but also a leisure photographer, because there's nothing wrong with being a leisure photographer. You know, if you know what you're doing and you want to go and have fun taking pictures, which is what I do on holiday. I'm not going out there to take a shot for an exhibition. I'm going on there to see what I can capture in a place I've never been, and quite occasionally I'm never going to go to again. Although I'm definitely going to go back to Malta, to Ġgantija and all the other places. And luckily Kirsty wants to go back as well, so we're good to go. Photography is a release. It's a mechanism for relaxation, for thinking, for being creative, for getting the cobwebs out. And it doesn't matter whether you want to make stuff to sell or you make stuff to get paid. Just pick up the fucking camera. Even the film camera like this baby here. Go and shoot, go and enjoy it, think about what you're doing, relax, unplug your head, leave the mobile phone in your pocket, do all those things, get the shot. You will come away with something worth having. You'll never come away with nothing. And as you've seen, if you're shooting raw, and even when you're shooting raw and you get it wrong, providing you're in a safe enough ballpark space, like I was, you can always fix that. Sort it in post, which is not ideal, and I know I preach about not doing that, but when you've got that fallback, why not use it? As long as you're in focus, most other things can be corrected, unless you're massively overexposed or then you're knackered. But generally speaking, don't worry about it. Get the shot, enjoy yourself, make the pictures, make the memories, but above all, think about how you felt when you're there, and try and make your visuals reconstruct that feeling you had. And if you put a bit of space between the shoot and the edit, give you time to reflect, rest, remember. When you come back to the edit, you should be able to plug back into how you felt and find yourself a little way to edit stuff that gets you back to where you felt. Because if you can do that, that's where the buzz is, that's where the magic is, and that's when people start to see, Jesus, yeah, I can see how he felt when he was there. Look at that. Look at that highlight, look at that shadow, look at that vibe, you can feel it. That's what photography is all about, visual communication. Right folks, thanks for listening today. It's gone on a bit longer than usual. Some of this might end up on the Patreon channel as opposed to YouTube and Spotify. We'll see how I get on in the edit, but I'll leave most of it in probably. Enjoy your day, evening, wherever it is. I'll be back soon with another fabulous episode. I've never really done this because when I first started this podcast, I didn't really care if anybody watched it. It was just there because it was therapy for me. But I'm kind of enjoying it now, and I'd like to kind of keep doing it, I think. And I'd like more people to watch it because I think I do give. In fact, I had a comment yesterday on YouTube where a guy said, "Where's everybody? Why aren't people watching this? This is fucking great. It's free education what they're doing," and that's nice to hear actually. So thanks to Abid for that. That was a nice comment. And so I would like to subscribe and share and do all those things because maybe we'll see if we can grow it. Maybe we'll see if we can get you a bit more hope and inspiration in there. I'm going to be taking pictures forever till the day I die, so that's not going to stop. So I'm always going to be generating content and things to talk about. I'll always be coming across things I want to talk about because they piss me off or they've excited me or whatever it is. But generally speaking, I know I go on a bit about other things sometimes. Reality, conspiracies, whatever you want to call them. Realities to me. Really, it's about photography and my approach to life through the lens. And I know that's a cheesy, and people say, oh, my life through the lens. But really, I go about my daily life thinking about things as a photographer. And every situation thing I see it as a photographer. So if you can imagine how my pictures look, that's how I see the world all the time. And I kind of frame it that way. So that's what I'll share with you moving forward. So please do like, share, subscribe, all that other stuff. And if you can afford a bit of merchandise, get on the link on the website and buy a t-shirt or a mug or whatever it is. They're pretty good, really, for 10 or 12 quid, whatever they are. If you've got a topic you'd like me to cover, or if you've got an edit issue you're stuck with, or you want a bit of advice on something technical, let me know. I'll cover it in the podcast. I'm happy to do that. But other than that, hope you enjoyed it. Have a look through the 20 odd other episodes if you've not done already. And I'll catch you probably sometime later next week with another episode of the last Burkitt encounter. And at this point now, I'll say goodbye, and you'll either be listening to Let's Get Into It by a fabulous band from the 90s and 2000s called Jopus, or you'll be listening to a new track by a new band who don't have a name yet, but the track's great. Whether I can swing it or not is another thing. But either way, catch you all soon.
Think about a way to get you out my mind. Think about a way to get you out my mind. Think about a way to get you out my mind. Think about a way to get you out my mind.